Welcome to r/Am I the Butthole, where OP's boyfriend believes that girls are not allowed to fart. Am I the butthole because I farted and my boyfriend got mad? I'm a 28-year-old woman and my boyfriend is 30. We were cuddled up in bed under a blanket. We weren't doing anything, just cuddled up. Randomly, I farted, literally out of nowhere, and he immediately jumped out of bed and said, "Okay, okay, I'm done," and started getting dressed, saying, "Stuff like this irks me." I replied, "I understand, but that was completely unintentional, but also very natural." His response, angrily, "Why would you fart in the bed under a blanket?" I just sat there, shocked, with absolutely no words. At that moment, my heart shattered into every tiny piece imaginable. What should I do? I assumed coming into this story that maybe you two were cuddling and he was the big spoon and you farted on his dick. I could see someone getting upset about that. But just a normal, everyday, run-of-the-mill fart? Had to look this one up. The average person farts 12 to 15 times a day. That's slightly more than one fart per hour. So I don't know what this guy expects you to do. Part of being a human means that you fart sometimes. Hell, it's one of the funniest things about being a human. Think about it. We're all born with built-in musical instruments that are kind of stinky and also kind of funny. Down in the comments, Skylar Core is looking on the bright side of things. He says, "Imagine having a dude once broke up with me because I farted as part of your dating lore. This is epic." Yeah, OP, I'm giving you 0 out of 5 farts. And I'm giving your ex-boyfriend 1 out of 5 farts. Am I the butthole for supporting my nephew after he taught his golden child brother a lesson he'll never forget? I'm a 31-year-old guy, and my brother is 40. My brother has 2 sons, Jack, who's 16, and James, who's 13. Jack was born when my brother was still in college. My brother didn't want a child at the time. He and his girlfriend struggled for a while, managing their studies and raising a child. Thankfully, our parents were supportive and helped him. I also helped in any way that I could. Eventually, he finished his studies, landed a job at 27, and got married to his girlfriend. Then their second child, James, was born. Both of them spoiled James a lot. Whenever our parents or I said anything, they claimed James was their planned child, and since they were in a good position, James deserved it. At the same time, they neglected Jack. They gave James expensive gifts, toys, clothes, snacks, everything. The saddest part is that Jack never once complained. I watched that kid be happy just because his brother was happy opening his gifts. James, on the other hand, was spoiled rotten. He constantly compared his things to Jack's, and if Jack ever got something good from someone, he wanted it too. This problem kept growing. The negligence towards Jack worsened, and James started taking advantage of it. He began getting Jack grounded for things that he did, and their parents always believed James no matter what. Over the years, I saw the sparkle in Jack's eyes fade. Now, this incident happened this Christmas. To be clear, I love both of my nephews. I don't approve of James' behavior, but I blame the parents, not the kid. So for Christmas, I bought both of them a Nintendo Switch. Jack had wanted one for years, and he almost cried when he got it. He hugged me and thanked me. But James hated it, saying, "I wanted a PlayStation 5, not this," and threw it away. I didn't care because I did my part. Whatever he did with his gift was none of my concern. I was not going to enable this kid like his parents did. A few days after Christmas, Jack came knocking on my door. The kid was crying and shaking. I let him in, calmed him down, and asked him what happened. To keep it short, after I gave them both a Nintendo Switch, Jack was too happy with it. He played The Legend of Zelda whenever he had time, and he was having so much fun. That did not sit well with James. To ruin Jack's fun, James broke his own Switch and cried to their mom, claiming that Jack broke it. Their mom believed him, snatched Jack's console, gave it to James, and grounded Jack. Jack just lost it this time. Years of unfair treatment finally got to him. He grabbed James by the neck and started choking him. He said he didn't know what came over him, but his mom's screaming and beating couldn't stop him. He just saw red. He started screaming at James, demanding him to tell the truth. James was struggling and begging Jack to release him, and finally, James admitted the truth. Jack let go. James was left gasping for air, and Jack ran away, straight to my apartment. After a while, I received a phone call from my brother asking me to send Jack home because he had a lot to answer for. Jack wanted to return home to face the consequences alone, but I went with him. When we arrived, I saw James visibly terrified of Jack. He had never faced consequences for his actions before, and it looked like Jack's anger had truly scared him. My brother started screaming at Jack, but I stopped him. I asked James in front of everyone why he did what he did. He didn't say anything at first, but when I pushed, he finally admitted that Jack was having too much fun and it irritated him. This kid was so spoiled that someone else's happiness bothered him. His mom started to defend him, saying he's just a kid, blah, blah, blah. I stopped her and sent Jack outside to sit in my car. Then I let my brother have it. I told him everything, how he failed as a father, how he neglected Jack, how he had spoiled James to the point of making him a terrible human being. My brother just listened. He didn't say a word. His wife tried to say something again, but this time he shut her up. It looked like reality had finally hit him. He finally realized his younger son was becoming a terrible person. I told him that if they hated Jack so much, I could take him in. Then I left and took Jack to my apartment. Now Jack is here with me. His mother's been blowing up my phone, saying that I was cruel to James and that I shouldn't meddle in their family affairs. She accused me of favoritism towards Jack. I didn't reply to her. I haven't heard anything from my brother yet. Maybe he's still processing his mistakes. For now, Jack is with me, playing games, studying. He's such a great kid. And if his parents don't want him back, I plan to support him until he graduates and gets on his feet. Am I the butthole for taking Jack's side? OP, I wouldn't sweat it. You are a fantastic uncle. You saved Jack from his terrible little brother, his neglectful parents, and I think also from himself. Because clearly Jack was starting to become undone at the seams, and if he keeps living with them, who knows what could happen. So I'm glad at least one adult in this family has his head on straight. OP, you and Jack get 0 out of 5 buttholes. Everyone else gets 3.5 out of 5 buttholes. Am I the butthole for refusing to switch seats on a plane with a guy that was fake crying and saying, "I need this seat today"? So I'm a 22-year-old guy, and I recently took a flight home after visiting some friends. I booked my seat months in advance. A nice window seat, because I like to put my music on and just vibe. I mean, who doesn't? I get on the plane, and there's a guy, probably mid-30s, sitting in my seat. I politely tell him that he's in the wrong spot. He looks up and just goes, "Oh yeah, I was hoping you'd switch with me. I have a middle seat like 5 rows back." I tell him, "Yeah, no thanks. I picked that seat for a reason." He sighs super dramatically and goes, "Come on, man, have a heart." I just shake my head and say, "Sorry, but I'm sitting in the seat that I paid for." At this point, he starts to tell me every bad thing that's happened in his life, because clearly he wasn't that sad of a person, but wanted to seem like one. And then he starts crying, like loud, over-the-top sobs. The lady next to him looks super uncomfortable. The flight attendant comes over to ask what's going on, and before I can even say anything, he goes, "Is there no humanity left on you, asshole?" I explain the situation, and the flight attendant just stares at him and goes, "Sir, please move." The dude gets up all huffy and says, "Wow, some people are just heartless." Then he dramatically walks off to his middle seat. I thought that was the end of it, but when we landed, he stood up, looked at me dead in the eyes and said, "I hope you have a terrible life." So am I the butthole for not switching seats? Well, OP, I hope you have a great life. So hopefully my hopes counteract his hopes and you're back to a net neutral. OP, you get 0 out of 5 buttholes. I give this other guy 1 out of 5 buttholes. Am I the butthole after my wife became emotionally abusive since giving birth, and she topped it off by cheating, and now she's begging me to reconsider? I'm a 28-year-old guy, and I've been married to my 27-year-old wife for 2 years, together for 4. 14 months ago, we had our first baby. She hasn't gone back to work, and I've been the sole breadwinner, which is her choice. And since she gave birth, my wife has become a nightmare to deal with. She became irritable, angry at me for the smallest reasons, complains about everything. Everything is somehow my fault. All she does is hold the baby all day, even if it didn't need to be held, and scroll through her phone. Everything else is my responsibility. We haven't had intercourse for over a year and a half, and whenever I try to address it, she lashes out at me because even though I'm the only one who works and I do all the housework, yet I'm insensitive and don't care about her. I was basically her emotional punching bag. To be clear, I didn't bring up intercourse until 3 months after she gave birth. I tried to get her to therapy, I tried to address her behavior, but all I get is more verbal abuse. I hated our marriage. I wanted to end it, but I was scared of the idea of co-parenting. I was scared of all the social backlash of ending a marriage with a child involved. And also, a small part of me was hoping that somehow things will get better. Well, last month, she made it a lot easier to end it. She told me she was going to a bar with her friends. She came back home at 4 a.m. drunk. And as soon as she slept, I snooped through her phone and found texts between her and a random guy implying that she went to a hotel room with him. I was almost relieved when I saw them. I can finally walk away from this miserable marriage without any guilt or regrets. The first thing I did was take a DNA test for the baby. He is mine. As soon as the results came back, I informed my wife that I'm aware of her infidelity and our marriage is over. She broke down crying. She begged for my forgiveness. She tried to use every excuse in the book. Postpartum depression, past trauma, alcohol. She promised to make it up to me. She said we would do whatever I want. She said that she doesn't want our family to break, but I wasn't having any of it. I've already hated this marriage, and the infidelity was just the nail in the coffin. We still live together, and she's been begging me to reconsider, promising me everything under the sun. But I have no intention to reconsider, and I told her that she's not allowed to speak to me anymore. OP, it sounds like you're not really coming to Reddit to ask, are you the butthole? It sounds like you're asking for validation because you want to leave and you just want permission. So, yes, you have permission. You don't really need it in the first place, but if you're unhappy in a marriage, you're allowed to leave. Nonetheless, clearly you get 0 out of 5 buttholes. You seem like a decent husband and dad, and I'm sorry this happened to you. I'm giving your wife, hopefully ex-wife soon, 4 out of 5 buttholes. Am I the butthole for finally telling my brother-in-law to leave after he's been mooching off us for a year? He moved in saying he just needed a few months until he was able to save enough money to rent his own place. It's been a year, but he's never once paid for bills, groceries, nothing. He doesn't even do basic chores, but my wife, she's his brother, always tries to cover for him and does his chores for him instead. He leaves dishes in the sink and doesn't take out the trash. He just sits around on his phone when he's at home to play mobile games or goes out on his motorcycle to go on long rides with his buddies. We've been biting our tongues because he's family, but last week was the last straw. He came home late, parked his bike, and didn't lock the gate. As a result of his neglect, our dog of 12 years got out. We searched everywhere and even made Facebook posts, only to find out a few hours later that he got hit by a car just outside our subdivision. We were devastated, and I was very furious. But guess who was the one acting pissed off? My brother-in-law, saying it wasn't his fault and that stuff happens and that he would just buy us a new dog. Lol. He hasn't even contributed a single cent to our monthly electric or internet bills. I lost it. I told him to pack his stuff and get out. My wife thinks that I was too harsh, but I honestly don't care anymore. He doesn't respect our home, our rules, or our damn dog. Am I the butthole for not considering my wife's feelings first? A part of me feels like we should have talked about it first, but then I acted on my own out of anger. Am I the butthole? So normally I'd say, yeah, you definitely should talk about this to your wife first, especially since it's her brother. But it sounds like your wife hasn't been considering your feelings for the past year either. So why should you be held to that standard? I'm giving you 0 out of 5 buttholes. I'm giving your wife 1 out of 5 buttholes and your brother-in-law 2 out of 5 buttholes. He talks about getting a new dog. Sounds like you need a new brother-in-law. Am I the butthole for telling my brother that he has to buy my half of our inherited home? My brother, who's 51, is living in my dad's childhood home. Granted, all of us kids and friends have as well, but we all paid rent, bills, and property tax. My brother, on the other hand, hasn't paid a dime to my dad, ever. He's lived with my parents his entire life, other than the 7 years he was married. And he's always been a big, spoiled brat. He works and gets paid very well, but my mom still manages his money. Anyways, my parents have recently passed, and we both inherited the house. I refuse to pay for his bills and property tax if he's living there. I have a mortgage and other things of my own. I told him he has to buy my half of the house, and he threw a fit and said that I'm selfish. Why should he give me money for something I got for free? Am I the butthole for putting my foot down? Well, certainly not a butthole, but definitely a little bit on the foolish side because I don't know what you expected, OP. Clearly, this is a self-obsessed, spoiled, entitled brat. The dude is 51, lives with his parents, and his mommy manages his accounts. Come on, dude. Why even try negotiating with someone like that? Just sue him in court, get your money, as you rightfully will, because it is your money, and then just move on. I'm giving you 0 out of 5 buttholes. I'm giving your brother 2 out of 5 buttholes. That was r/Am I the Butthole. And if you like this content, check out my podcast where I publish the exact same episodes. Also, hit that subscribe button because I put out new Reddit videos every single day.